bid on by 3 consortiums. One was called Capital Clear. They had the high technical bid, but they didn't win the overall bid. I think probably because they were $1 million or $2 over, and CRD had a procurement policy that said go with the lowest bid. It's typical for many organizations to procure projects that way. But this has come in orthogonally to the process. We've been looking at sites, and we've been trying to figure out the best place for it to go. There's no technology. We haven't seen any of these wonderful technologies that I see elsewhere in the world. But one of the bidders came in and said, how about this? And so this is what he proposed in his slides. This is Clover Point. Where's the treatment plant? Underground. Just like in Korea. Modern design. So it's about the size of those 10 homes, and it would only be big enough to treat the east side sewage, right? That Clover Point catchment area that we saw before on the right side of the diagram. So this wouldn't solve all of the problem, but it would probably solve about half of the problem. So it would deal with Victoria, some of Saanich, and all of Oak Bay. And it's really quite remarkable. So there's some more photos here done by the architect, and it's Frank Ambrosio, a famous architect in town. And he's showing the view now from the homes. If I was living in one of those homes, I don't think I would be opposed to this. Because I think there's an amenity here, and I think there's a bit of an improvement. And essentially what we have is the roof of the treatment plant is a green roof with grass on it, so you can still use it. Again, we've kind of made good use of the land using the technology. And they've created a bit of an observation area here to actually look down. So we can zoom in here, and there's sort of a see-through fence that's been proposed to keep people safe, some benches for sitting down. And this is my idea of what a modern sewage treatment plant should look like. It should be a benefit to the community. It should add an amenity. It should make the site better. It shouldn't just be a big building that nobody wants to have in their neighborhood. This is a yes in my backyard type of solution. So this is what it would look like from the bottom. A path would be put in or modified. Any number of things could go in there. This probably wouldn't be the main entrance for the plant operators, but you could have washrooms. Wouldn't that be a novel idea where there's an outfall? Actual washrooms at Clover Point. Why not? There's an amenity there. You could have a tourist center. You could have a CRD information center. There's all sorts of things you could put inside and make it worthwhile. So there's a cross-section to show you just how deep it is into the ground. And we saw that first story there. There's kind of a second story underground. And we can see roughly how big a truck would be picking up a bucket of the sludge and taking it somewhere. And this is already happening at Clover Point with a pumping station there. So why couldn't you expand the idea from an underground pump station to an underground treatment plant? On the right is one of those vertical reactors. That's the sewage treatment technology going deep into the ground. So there's some more photos here, and what's hard is the pointer still around? Over here is an underground pump station at Clover Point. And it would have all the same limitations that an underground sewage treatment plant would have, and all the same benefits. If you can get a truck up that big hill, you can get a truck out of there. If you can bury it and hide it, you can do it. And the ironic thing is that if you were to build a sewage treatment plant at Rock Bay, which is a misnomer, I think, because it's actually made of clay, that place. It should be called Clay Bay. And that whole site will have to be reinforced with piles to make the sewage treatment plant survive an earthquake and make it seismically stable. Clover Point's all rock. And it's high above the water to deal with the tsunami and to deal with sea level rise. Far beyond, for maybe 100 years or more. Don't quote me on that, but that's the kind of scale that we're talking about. But in order to get the sewage to Rock Bay, this treatment plant, or this pump station I should say, is going to have to be expanded to a 12,000 square foot facility to be put in big pumps to send it up that pipe. So why would we spend $30 million burying a pump station and doing all that work underground when we can do that at a treatment plant there? I think it's a wonderful idea, but it hasn't been shown to you or the public or anybody else. So, here's a cutaway diagram showing what's inside the plant. There's not much detail at this stage. It's very much a concept. These are it's called a massing diagram, showing roughly what the technology would look like on the inside in terms of, they look like Lego blocks to me. And here's a close-up of it, and you can see the ramp that goes around it. And so here's the sidewalk that's going around. And just on the inside is the ramp where a truck would go, which we saw in the previous schematic, take the sludge out and truck it somewhere. And I'm told that there'd be about 2 or 3 trucks per day going out. And these trucks could go at midnight. But I don't even think that would be necessary, because how many people have seen a garbage truck during the day? We've rarely seen them, and they're running all around town. So what would be 2 or 3 more trucks? I think we'd hardly notice them. But for the sake of these residents, it might be worthwhile to actually have them come out at 2 in the morning so nobody's bothered. So I don't think there's going to be a big social impact from this. So what's inside the plant? One of these, and 4 of these. The compact technology. And the cost is $170 million, as proposed by the consortium when they sent this letter into the CRD. So you need 2 of these. One wouldn't be enough for the whole system. This would be the east side version, we'd have to find one for the west side. And this is the estimate, it's an early estimate, but it would include the profit for the builders as well. And so it's something that we should really, really look at. So what's the final cost going to look like if we eliminate the pipes and the pumps? So, 1 plant for the east side, 1 for the west side. It would probably make sense to put a little plant in Colwood, for Colwood and Langford, because that's the area where there's going to be a lot of growth over time. And what you do is you build a plant in Colwood, and then as the population grew, you would build another plant in Langford somewhere, a small little plant, and then you would relieve the Colwood plant of that load that would be handled by the Langford plant, and then Colwood could continue to grow and have excess capacity for itself. And that's how you balance that system. You'd still need to do some of the repairs on the old 150-year-old infrastructure that we have. And Oscar talked about some of that. But look at the total, $420 million. This is just the wastewater half of it, but we have to compare these numbers that are coming in the front door with the numbers that are coming from the CRD's consultants. And so I've broken this down by federal and provincial funding. And we start with the wastewater cost from the McLaughlin project, the wastewater cost only of the current project, and what I call this no-pipe solution at the outfalls, just like the minister in 2003 was expecting us to build. Of the federal and provincial contributions, $170 million would go towards the wastewater and $135 from the province, leaving us with these bills. So this solution, without the pipes, is even cheaper than the McLaughlin solution, by about $60, $70 million. I think that's substantial. I've not seen that. And look at it compared to where we are right now. It's a night and day cost difference, and there's a motivation here, not just for us, but for the federal and provincial governments to claw back on some of the money. If we can save $200 million overall, the province could have 75, and the feds could have 75, we could have 75 back. I think if I was working at those levels of government, I'd be pushing the CRD to make a better plan so that that money could go to something else more worthwhile, putting some pipes in the ground that we don't need. So this is my job as I sit there as a CRD director every day trying to get a better project. And this is my mission. I think it should be the mission of all the directors, to lower the cost by the elimination of piping and pumping with technology for a financial benefit, to require tertiary treatment to catch the microplastics and the microfibers for an environmental benefit, and to minimize the excavation, digging, and to construct a wastewater treatment plant with high architectural value for social benefit. I don't think that's too much to ask. And I've seen the technology, and it's being done elsewhere in the world. And it's time to get serious about it and do one here.
Can I have 2 minutes?
2 minutes.
2 minutes, I promise. Can I have 2 minutes?
To ask questions?
Talk to you.
Afterwards.
Right now.
Right now? Well, I think I'm going to hand it over to someone to... What's the best way to hand it? So I think I'm going to hand it back to the moderator. That's my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it.
Why do you need 2 minutes? Do you have a question or you
Question. I have not a question, I have a statement.
Well,
I feel that this whole thing, I'm a bit dizzy, and I'm not drunk either. The whole thing is a waste of money. This sewage treatment, there was a survey done 30 years ago by an engineering firm, and they made a decision that there is no need in Victoria for this kind of stuff, because we are on the end of the island.
yeah, well, that ship has sailed already.
Finished that.
Yeah, but other people want to ask questions. I mean,
Yes, I'm going because I'm sick.
okay.
Okay, so I just want to finish it, that the Seattle or Vancouver, they cannot do it, Victoria we can. So I think this is a waste of money, and it's my taxpayer money, and I don't like it.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, questions, lady in the back, in the middle there, yes. Hold it close to your mouth.
I know how to use a microphone.
Okay.
Richard, when you were showing what your mission was at the CRD, it strikes me that there's a fourth thing that should be added, and it was alluded to also in your presentation. If you go with distributed tertiary plan, the other thing that it deals with is, in fact, the earthquake that we all know is coming here one day. And it's going to be 2,800 times stronger than the one that happened the other night. And if it's only in one location, I guess my question would be is how soon will we have a sewage system running once the earthquake happens, and how long will it take to repair it?
All right, thank you for that question. If we build something brand new at that location or put a plant anywhere, those things are going to be built to a modern standard and they're going to probably survive the earthquake. Probably. Depends how strong it is, okay? It's the old infrastructure that's there that's going to crack in the ground and the sewage is going to flow out of that and it won't even get to the plant. It's resilient, an earthquake resilient. So the whole system is at risk and the whole system has to be upgraded at some point in time.
So isn't it, I guess my question really is, isn't a distributed system more resilient?
I think it is. If you, and there should be more options. That was just one option that I showed.
Yeah.
And I think we should be looking at what the CRD's put forth. We should be looking at the decentralized option. We should be looking at the Zalpol option. We should have something to choose from that we can balance the pros and cons of. If you don't need to put a big pipe somewhere, then there's less risk of a big pipe cracking. Smaller pipes, you know, there's issues with them as well. But the thing is, if the main pipe cracks for the single plant, the whole system goes down. It doesn't matter where it is.
Gentleman in the back.
Microphone.
Yes, my name's Bill Dancer, and I've been following this project since about 2006. I've also done a lot of research at home by myself, and your remarks about vertical shaft technology, I would say that perhaps it was, well, I know that it was really made for small areas and industrial plants. I've had a look at the Jinping plant, which is a dual-purpose plant. I've also researched the history of plants in North America, which is deplorable. Right now we have a plant working in Homer in Alaska, still having troubles. Dawson City's plant, as of a week last Tuesday, was now going to be owned by the Yukon government, where they've had constant troubles, and also they're operating across the Trimble. These are very small plants, I'll give you. I really don't think, given that you also have another criteria of proven rather than feasible, feasible being an adjective which gives you some sway, proven, which is a verb which says it has been proven. I would say in North America, the vertical or the deep shaft systems, regardless of whether they're vertec or whatever, have not been proven, and therefore, at the end of the day, if we went with that system, and I know it's just an option, but if we went with it, we may very well be stuck with the same problem that Homer and Dawson City have, and that problem would be solved, or the money to solve that problem would be coming from right here. So what we've got really is a system versus a risk factor there. Otherwise, I thought, well, other than
Do you have a
that,
question, sir?
yes.
Okay.
Have you taken that into account when you suggested this system? Do you know anything about that?
So there's been a lot of debate at the CRD with the oversight panel and the engineers and from the Capital Clear consortium. The data that they provided on the Jinping or the Chinese plant shows it to be a 40 megaliter plant that's treating at a tertiary level, and they've been doing it since 2009 and it's working just fine. I'm not sure about the plant that's in Homer, Alaska. The one that's in Dawson City. Yeah. You still hear me? This isn't on.
Right.
This isn't on. There, thanks. The one that's in Dawson City is undersized, and what they did is they didn't size it for the summer season when the tourists come into town. And so the tourists come in, and they produce sewage, and it goes into the plant, and the plant gets overloaded. The plant wasn't designed properly for the city and for its tourists. So the companies that are behind this proposal have looked at all of this data, and they've decided that they're willing to take the risk for us and build it. And what they would do is they would design it, they would build it, and they would finance it, and they would operate it, and then after a year of operation, they would transfer it to us. And it was only at that point in time would we pay for it, and we would be responsible for it. So we would have essentially a year of security with that, based on the designs that have been done in China that have been working since 2009.
Okay, next question over here.
This has been an extremely interesting presentation, and I thank you all. My only question is that it looks to me like if a decision is being made at the CRD on the 24th of February, that indicates that the horse is just about out of the barn and we're just closing the gate on the tail. I don't follow these steps that are going to take place and how they all match up and that we can do anything about what is already almost a train.
Yeah, Richard, do you want to answer that since you're one of the decision makers?
Sure. Yeah, on the 24th, the directors are going to be presented with a choice. And what has been done is that meeting has been moved to 9 a.m. They tried to move it to 8 a.m. to start it early so that they could go through the day because they know there's going to be a lot of debate. The Langford directors didn't want to get up that early to come in for an 8 a.m. meeting and drive from Langford. So it's set for 9 a.m. They have cleared the meeting at 11:30, and the meeting is going to run somewhere between 9 o'clock and 1:30 to essentially push a decision through. And how the votes will fall on the day, I'm not too sure, but I think some of this is going to get pushed through, not what I presented, but what's been put forward by the CRD, and that would be unfortunate. I think the best thing that can be done at this point, we're still early in the process, there's 5 years to go until we get to the end of the 2020 deadline when this plant needs to be in operation. I think we need to let the Minister of Environment know that we want options. It's actually a critical piece of her decision making because in 2006, I believe it was, Premier Campbell had difficulty on where the sewage plant was being proposed for the Whistler area, it's the Chekhov's plant. And the city had, I'm not sure they turned it down, but he didn't want any obstacles with the public holding back funding to build something that was going to essentially make a stinky issue for the Olympics. So they put into the regulations the fact that you could not have a referendum on borrowing for something like this, like for a sewage treatment plant. So we can't do that. If we build a fire hall somewhere and you need to borrow a lot of money, there's a process for that. That's happened in Central Saanich, it happened in View Royal, but for sewage plant is excluded. And they changed the regulations in the Environmental Management Act to say that the minister will approve or disapprove based on the level of public consultation. And I don't think it's been great. I think we've heard a lot tonight say it's not been great. The material that you received hasn't been great. And so I believe that the minister needs to know that you're dissatisfied with this, that you're not getting options, you're not seeing technology.
What would be the worst case scenario that takes place at that meeting?
I think the worst case scenario is that one of those options is selected. It'll probably be option 1 because that's $1.3 billion and it's the cheapest of all of them. But it comes with it comes with a low environmental result. It comes with the high financial cost. It comes with the high social impact. It actually doesn't meet the project charter that we put together early on to bring in a project that was the same cost or less than the McLaughlin project. And to meet the other goals that we put in the charter as well, to create a 21st century system. We don't have that. The engineers have actually gone through the process and ignored the project charter and delivered us this.
What's the best case scenario?
The best case scenario, I think, is the no pipes version that has the high environmental outcome.
But from a decision point of view, does a decision have to be made?
I don't think a decision has to be made on next Wednesday. I really don't. It's been proffered that the federal and provincial governments will take away the money if we don't act. I've never seen this happen. There's no stories, there's no news stories about this. If they did take away the funding, they would crater the economy here because we can't afford to build that by ourselves. And why would they do that? They would be responsible for the economic problems that we have here for having to build something that was $1.3 billion. So I don't believe they're going to do that. They do have deadlines in order to motivate us and to push us forward. And granted, we've blundered our way through this since 2003. But They want to build a good project. They don't want to put in $253 million. They'd like to put in $150 million or less if they could. And I'm pretty sure the Prime Minister and the Premier would like to come to the groundbreaking and turning on of the plant if it's innovative and it's something to be proud of. I don't think anyone's going to come and stand in front of the cameras for one of these. And certainly if the overruns go on and on and on with the dig, that's where the overruns usually happen. It's going to hit the Globe and Mail, and it's going to be all across the country, and every taxpayer is going to be wondering what the hell we're doing.
Best case scenario is the Langford directors sleep in. Many.
Yes, all of this is, they are saying we have to make a decision on 24th because if we don't, we may lose that portion of P3, portion of federal government contribution of $83.4 million. That P3 requirement for every project over $100 million was based on Harper government rulings. On November 22nd, when Mr. Trudeau issued his mandate letter to his minister, he told the Minister of Infrastructure and Communities, Mr. Amarjit Sohi, to take that requirement off. So that requirement is not anymore there. Why is CRD still trying to make us believe that that requirement is there and we have to make the decision? The second issue is this. There was a study by Fishery Department, Federal Fishery Department, about the secondary sewage treatment. And they come and say that even if we have a secondary sewage treatment, that has a negligible effect on fish. So are you asking us to pay $1 billion for negligible effect on fish?
Yeah, two questions.
I'll answer the second question first. Yes. $1.3 billion would be a huge cost with little to no benefit. Because you're still relying on secondary treatment. It's not going to catch these microplastics and microfibers. They're still going to go through and outfall into the ocean. And all those videos that I showed earlier, nothing's going to change after that plant is built. It won't look any different. Some of the heavy metals and things that will be caught by the sewage treatment system will be taken out of the water as part of the secondary process. But they're going to be put into the sludge, and then they're going to have to be processed and applied on land. And all we're going to end up doing with that kind of system is moving it from the sea to the land for $1.3 billion. And if anyone was to put together a cost-benefit analysis for that, it would fail, because there's no benefit. The first question was what to do with the funding. P3 Canada, this Public-Private Partnerships Canada, was the vehicle that the Harper government used to force infrastructure on the communities. So not only did they say, you have to build a plant, they said, you have to build it this way with this kind of funding. And they really held us hostage on that. And it's only for $83 million. Of the 3 funding agreements that this project consists of, one of them with the province is in breach. One of them is unsigned because there was no rezoning of McLaughlin, and the minister wouldn't sign it until there was rezoning. And the third one, this P3 agreement you're talking about, is actually a conditional agreement. It's not even a final agreement. And like you say, the minister has been given instructions from the Prime Minister to bank unspent infrastructure funds. So what we should be doing at the CRD is not chasing our tails and trying to accommodate a policy of a government that no longer exists. We should be working with the new federal government to do what they want us to do. And they have said in their letters, build innovative sewage treatment. And they've set up a new $20 billion fund for that and other mechanisms. And they've eliminated this P3 screening. So why we're doing this with a Crown Corporation, this P3 Canada, that I think is going to be defunct in a year. And the funds are closed. They're not giving any money out from the fund. So Moncton or Winnipeg, they can't come to P3 Canada and say, well, we'll take the money because Victoria's not taking it. The funds are closed. This money has been grandfathered to us, but we've been, I think, not very, what's the word I'm looking for? We've done an extremely poor job of producing a plan that you all can look at and approve of and understand, and then take that to the funders and say, fund this. What we've done instead is say, we need the funding, here's a discharge strategy, we have no idea what it's going to look like, and force it to be at this site and this site, and let's sign the agreement so we can secure the funding for something we don't even know what it looks like. It just doesn't make any sense.
Okay, let's take a couple more questions, we'll wrap it up.
Let's get a mic here.
He's got a mic. Yes, sir.
Yeah, it just strikes me that $200 million to build a pipeline to and from Rock Bay doesn't make any sense. It's going to take years to do that. if they move ahead with a distributed system or the treatment plant at Clover Point where they don't have to build a secondary pipeline, they're not going to have to wait until 2020 to get all the works in the ground. They could build it in 2 or 3 years perhaps.
Exactly. There's a very large plant in Santa Paula, California, that I think took 2 years to build. And it's very large. We could build small plants. We could actually start a plant. We could put the structure into the ground, and then once that's completed and the next crew comes in to put the top on and put the insides in, that crew could move to the next site and put the superstructure in the ground. And the crews could just simply follow each other around. They could start at the end of the system, say up in this area. I don't think there's a lot of controversy over where the site should be, and I don't think Harrow Woods is a very good site. I think there's a lot of other opportunities there. But if you build a plant at the top of the system, you would relieve the sewage system that exists now of the load downstream. And then you build another one downstream, and another one. There's a logical way of doing this.
And you're not digging up Cook Street for 3 years and
Yeah, it would take at least a year to dig up Cook Street, and it would look something like that. I can't predict exactly what it would look like. It wouldn't look like the Canada Line dig, but look how disruptive that was to all those businesses. Huge social, financial disruption. Some businesses may actually go out of business, and the courts have ruled that governments do not have to reimburse the businesses for going out of business. Isn't that terrible?
Okay, sir, you've got the final question, and feel free to ask these gentlemen questions once it's over. Yes, sir.
I have a fundamental question apart from all the technical questions I would have and comments, and that is we had over the last year, several major scandals with the CRD, one after another. And somehow, if you ask your neighbors and so on, everybody is fed up. There's only a few people who still try to participate in one way or another. So the question is, what can we do to get to a better political decision-making process? This is ridiculous what is going on. We are 1,001 people work their butts off to look into the technicalities and so on and back and forth. The CRD directors and the whole group of the CRD people, they are not even interested in that because they make their decisions, this is just one point in that, all behind closed doors. And that's the same as municipalities. Our mayor had made a bad experience with that already. It was one of the major scandals we had. I don't know if he has still no insight into the Saanich files. I would assume not, because then he would know, for example, that that watering plant in Harrow Woods, Harrow Woods, right? There was a major meeting, a lot of people here probably did attend that. That was hijacked at the time from the CRD people. They were not even invited. And false messages were given there, false information. And this information is still lingering on. For example, and I have to really emphasize that, this is one, not the whole point, but one small point. In Saanich East, there is no storm sewer water in the sewer, full stop. Anything else is garbage, because it's not legal. It's, if you read the bylaw, maybe you didn't even have access to the bylaw. It's in fact emphasized print that this is not allowed, full stop.
Okay, sir, your question reminds me of the story of Yogi Berra, the former baseball player who was lost, and he was driving to the Hall of Fame, and one of the players in the car says, "Yogi, you're lost," and he says, "Yeah, I know it, but we're making good time, aren't we?" It's very much like the CRD. Thank you all for coming. I hope this was informative, but before you go, Diane Carr wants to say a few words.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming. I just want to draw your attention to the piece that's up on the screen asking, what can you do? We don't want to send you away without an ask. And so we have 3. And the first is the petition that's online at realpony.ca. In fact, all 3 of those bullets are online at that address. The petition, I just will read you the last part of it, because it's fairly long. But We respectfully request the Honorable Mary Pollock, Minister of Environment, to require the CRD to fully inform the public of innovative cost sewage treatment solutions and about integrated resource management, which offers compelling cost savings and environmental benefit before seeking any approval, be it conditional or otherwise, of a change to the core area liquid waste management plan, or before proceeding to implement any current liquid waste management plan. So that's the first thing that we would ask you to do, is to sign that petition. And the second is to complete the CRD survey. Go back and do it again if you've already done it. It was explained about the Fairness and Transparency Advisor intervening and saying that they really should add none of the